Pearson Edexcel International GCSE Languages. This webinar is on IGCSE Bangla Exam Insights of May-June Series 2024. A warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on understanding strengths and weaknesses in IGCSE Bangla. My name is Shamim Pafel and I'm your presenter today. I'm involved in this syllabus in different capacities. Today, we'll dive into a detailed analysis of common strengths and weaknesses observed in examinees' performance in IGCSE Bangla. Our goal is to provide valuable insights into the areas where students typically excel and those where they may face challenges. We'll also discuss strategies to address these weaknesses and build on existing strengths. We'll also highlight some key points from our examiner's report. We'll also have a take on the support available from Pearson on this specific syllabus. Our subject code is 4BA0/01, that is our IGCSE Bangla. We run two exams each series. One is in May, June, and the other series in October, November. And this webinar will focus only on the May, June series, which is in 2024. Candidates sat this exam on Tuesday, 28th of May, 2024. We already know the structure of this paper. I'll just quickly go through this part, which is this paper focuses on reading, writing, grammar, and transmission skills. We have 5 thematic areas that are outlined in the spec handbook. The themes are home and abroad, education and employment, personal life and relationships, the world around us and social activities, fitness and health. The paper is structured into 3 sections. Section A, which is reading, and that is 40% of the assessment. Section B, that is a writing section, and again that is also 40% of the assessment. And section C, which is translation, and the translation comprises 20% of the assessment. This paper is externally assessed. Now we are going to look into the objectives and weightings. So the main and detailed features of our exam, IGCSE Bangla, which is duration with the duration of 2 hours 30 minutes and total mark of 100. We have 7 questions there, and the content and mark allocation, we have section A, which is reading, and there are 4 questions related to 4 text extracts. Students are expected to answer all 4 questions and total mark 40 with an assessment objective A01. Section B, which is writing, and there are 2 writing tasks. Task 1, candidates are expected to write a short essay based on 4 short prompts or stimuli. Task 2, they are expected to write a longer essay based on a choice of 3 stimuli or 3 prompts, and the total mark is 40 in this section, and that covers assessment objective 2. In section C, we have translation. Candidates are expected to translate 1 passage in English to Bangla, and the total mark is 20, and the assessment objective is 3. Now we are going to have an insight into each question item, which sat in May 2024. So the item wise, we are going to start with question 1. So question type for question 1, which is multiple choice word draw question, and we have a kind of a prose text which is between 130 and 140 words, and the mark allocation for this item is 6. Candidates are provided with a 12 words and they have a block box with an example. And in this series, like in 2024 May, this text worked extremely well to facilitate the candidates in identifying the correct words. So it worked really well from our perspective, the way we have marked. And the mean mark achieved in this question was 5.4 out of 6. And you can see that the performance of this candidate was of this question was excellent by the candidates. And to have an insight into this particular question item, which is question 1, candidates found item 1C comparatively easier, which is with a mean mark of 0.94, and they found 1A comparatively challenging with a mean mark of 0.84. Our examiners, like from the examiner's point of view, what we have seen, what we have found is those who couldn't score full marks in this question had challenges to identify the correct word for question 1A, which is this one, and then question 1E, and also question 1F, so which is this one. For example, we have spotted a few candidates choose letter A for question 1A, which is this one, সামাজিক যোগাযোগের চর্চা এখন gap blank হয়ে গেছে. And most of them, like those who got it incorrect, they have chosen the word ব্যয়বহুল, which is letter A, and they got it incorrect. So candidates, they picked up grammatically plausible word, but unfortunately they couldn't relate to the text provided, they couldn't comprehend properly, and that's why they got it wrong. So candidates need to make sure they understand the text, they read the stem of each question item carefully so that they can choose the right word. The similar trend also seemed like evident for question 1E. Most of the candidates, they have chose G instead other than the correct option, and again for 1F they have chosen I instead. So let's talk about kind of the strategies behind this particular question type, which is gap fill questions. And this is the first question in our paper, so question 1. And to perform better in this question item, here are like several strategies we can talk about. So first thing is I would like to highlight is to understand the context. So we expect the candidates to read before filling in any blanks. So they need to read the entire passage, and that will help them to grasp the overall meaning and the tone and guiding the word choices. And they need to pay attention to the keywords or phrases surrounding the gap that gives them some clues about the required word, and they also need to understand the context, the clues in that text or the context, and sometimes they could have some hints in surrounding sentences or paragraphs that might indicate the word choice. For example, time markers or yesterday, or signaling different tense, or words like however, like মাঝে মাঝে, সবসময়, যা হোক, কারণ. So those words could have established a relationship between the ideas and the possible like to helping them to select the right word. They also apply another strategy, which is like eliminating the incorrect option. So if options are given, eliminate those that definitely don't fit to the context, like fit the context or part of the meaning, so they can give it a go, like eliminating the options. And in this way they can narrow down their choices, and they can increase their choices or chances of selecting the correct answer. For this gap fill question, they also need to understand vocabulary, so the candidates regularly need to read a wide range of materials, articles, books, etc., so that they encounter new vocabulary in different contexts, and they strengthen their vocabulary bank. They also need to like practice word families, for example, success, like succeed, success, successful, successfully, including like recognizing variation of each word that also includes synonym, because whatever word is used in the question text, the stem would be, the list of words, those will be synonyms. So they also need to learn quite a lot of synonyms so that that fits in that particular question item. They can also practice with similar questions. So they can do practice exercises with gap fill questions to become familiar with the typical exam pattern. They can go back, they can review mistake and understand why a particular word doesn't fit in that context. And also, I would suggest they shouldn't spend much time on looking for the correct option, or the time management. So don't get stuck on a difficult blank for too long. So they need to move on, and they may gain insight from the later parts of the passage that might help them to fill in with the correct word which they missed out earlier. And repeated attempts are also leaving out blank and legible handwriting. So as you can see here, so leaving blank may not be a good practice. So if there is a possibility, they could fill in with the letter, and that might be the correct one. So that's one thing we need to consider. So leaving a blank, so it's better answer all of them. Don't leave any blank in this particular type of question. And also legibility of the answers. So for example, crossing out over here for 1B, crossing out, it doesn't look like what's the next answer. The letter itself for 1D looks like K, but it's not clearly done. And especially if you look at 1F here, which is overwritten, and there is a risk of not getting the correct letter. So it is not a good practice to leave a blank in this type of question. And the handwriting, especially after crossing out a letter, the reattempt should be legible so that the examiner can award the mark correctly. So by combining these strategies, I would say, we can say, with regular practice, candidates can improve their performance in gap fill questions and feel more confident during our IGCSE Bangla exam. Okay, so next one is our insights into question 2. So here for question 2, we got multiple choice question, which is multiple choice matching question, and the text provided is between 160 words, and there are 3 speech bubbles with images, like the person who is giving these opinions or making those comments, and marks allocated is 8. So mark allocation is 8. We provide an answer grid from A to G provided in left-hand column with an example provided. So for this year, what happened is this series, the majority of candidates appear to be able to engage with the options provided in this question, which is evidenced by their performance. So they got most of them options correct, which is very good and something to celebrate. So to establish what their performance was, that was the mean mark of this question was 6.26 out of 8, which is quite good. And that means this question is also handled well by the candidates. Some candidate marked more or fewer than the required number of boxes, as we know in this question 2, as opposed to 8 crosses, they require to fill in 8 crosses, not more, not less. So this year, a significant number of students found question 2B and question 2G challenging, and in both cases, there's slight discrepancies between B to choose the correct option, and also there are 2 selections for question 2G. So they found question 2B, which is this one, and question 2G is challenging. So to perform better in this kind of multiple choice questions, our suggestion would be, first thing is candidates need to know that they need to select 8 crosses, they need to select 8 possible answers or plausible answers. First, they are needed, they are expected to make sure they fully understand the statement before jumping into the options, like before selecting anything. They need to understand the statement. So whatever it says here, like, the stem of this question, and also looking at the keywords and phrases that indicate what is being asked. So ব্র্যান্ডের পোশাক সব সময় ভালো হয় না. So they need to comprehend, they need to understand that stem. Then they need to go back to the text and looking those kind of branded পোশাক or সব সময় ভালো, those keywords or phrases, and look for who has been made that kind of comments. Again, like the question one, we can go with the process of elimination here, so they can narrow down the choices, eliminate obviously wrong answers, even if they are unsure about the correct answer, but reducing options increases their chances of guessing correctly. And also, in this kind of text, like in question 2, there are some like intensifier of frequency words, and candidates need to be very careful on those ones. For example, always, never, only. So সব সময়, কখনো, কখনো, বা শুধুমাত্র. So এই ধরনের, this kind of words they really need to look for, because when they look for contextual clues, like what is the context, when they are skimming the passage first to understand the main ideas, then they need to go back and finding those specific keywords, like if the person is doing it always, or if the person is like only once, or those kind of like identify techniques they need to apply. So I would say in language MCQs, like for example, our question 2 in this paper, distractors are often designed to be close to the right answer, but slightly off in meaning or uses. So we need to be very careful to use those strategies so that they can justifiably, validly pick up the right answer. Always, the best option is practice. So practice past papers and review any wrong answers to understand why the correct choice in the mark schemes was right. So that kind of practicing would help them to also understanding the rubric. So selection optionality. So candidates should be aware that number of selections to be made and how many in each row. So we know there like historically we don't have 3 rows in like 3 crosses in 1 row. And we also know wrongly selected multiple choice would invalidate the correct selection in the same row. So it is not a guessing game, kind of giving as many crosses they feel like. So it has to be really specific and based on the correct selection or correct options, such as, for example, as we can say, 3 crosses in a row would be awarded 0 mark, because usually we don't have 3 crosses. Like we don't have a statement where everybody is saying the same thing. Then whereas there is only one correct answer, if the candidates they put on they crosses twice or 2 crosses, that will invalidate the correct answer and would get 0. That's another point, something we need to bear in mind. So where there is only one correct answer, 2 crosses will invalidate the correct answer and would get 0. If for any row the selection is crossed out, for example, someone attempted first and then clearly crossed it out and reattempted, and the new selection will be considered. Although even the new cross seems to be incorrect, but still the new cross will be carried forward, like marked. If for any rows the selection is crossed out clearly and not attempted again, so for example the candidate decided to cross 1 and then crossed out, thought no, there isn't anybody saying this particular statement, or it doesn't matches with any of those statements. So if not attempted again, then that would be awarded 0. If there are 2 correct answers in a row and one of them signposted correctly and the other one is wrongly, so we got one correct option which is correctly signposted or crossed out, and the other one is wrong, then only 1 mark will be awarded. So these are the particular points we really need to make sure our candidates, they understand and they practice. They were aware of, they are aware of this kind of how to cross out, how many crosses they need to put in. Then I hope they will be perform better in this question. So let's dive into question 3. So the insights into question 3. So in question 3, we have a note-taking question. So, and this one again, based on 170, between 170 and 175 words, and total marks allocated for this question is 12. Candidates are provided with a short set of notes on the text, as you can see here, and they are also provided with answer spaces. And to begin with, there is an example. So an example is provided. And this series, like 2024 May, it was clear that candidates were able to show a significant level of understanding of this text, which is very good to see, and which offered the candidates at all levels the opportunity to answer successfully. So we're really happy and proud to see the way our candidates have performed, and thanks to you all. So the mean mark of this question was in this year. So the mean mark was from their performance. So the mean mark of this question was 8 out of 12. On question 3A, which is very commonly evidenced this year, some candidates didn't understand the keyword Prothom Bhramonkal, the year of travel. And rather than writing down the year, the candidate has written down quite a lot of candidates indicated the place of travel rather than the year of travel. So that's one thing we have observed. A few candidates couldn't decipher the different context in question 3G, ভ্রমণের মাধ্যমে তার অর্জন, and 3H, and responded wrongly, kind of like swapping the correct answers. So that is something we need to practice in future if that doesn't happen. So for example, most candidates performed, although I have mentioned they performed really well, got 8 out of 12 on an average. But however, many lost marks on question 3E, and since they use nouns instead of verbs, so the anondo gorbo would have been anonder gorbe. So those kind of grammatically fit in. Also question 3H, 3F, candidates forgot to mention correctly linking with the stem, বেতনের টাকা, হাত খরচের টাকা, rather than just writing chakri, and rather than writing the source of their income for traveling. And also, sometimes there are two parts, the question is asking for two different views or two different key points, and both aspects are necessary. So they need to make sure they include both of them rather than just one part of the answers. And the appropriateness in both cases, like I have said earlier, so anando gorbo, that is not the appropriate way of concluding that stem. So performing better in this type of question, we would suggest this is a note-taking question, and it requires a blend of reading comprehension, information organization, and identifying key ideas. And we can go with some strategies here that candidates can apply. So first thing is they need to understand the given stem. So candidates should read each stem very carefully, ensuring they know exactly what information is being asked for. So rather than guessing, they need to be able to understand each stem. So that will take them further ahead of going back to the text and looking for the answer for those question stem. And some note-taking tasks may ask for key points and specific details, and they also need to, other than on top of understanding the stem, they also need to focus on the specific details like ভ্রমণের উৎস হিয়া, or তার অর্জন, or the benefits or upokarita, or তার স্বভাব, or তার Brahmankal. So those particular aspects, so they really need to confirm they have understood Brahmankal is the Brahmankal, the timing of the travel or year of the travel, rather than the places of the she visited to. So after getting those, the stems and understanding and identifying the key ideas, they can quickly go through the passage and get an understanding of overall meaning and structure, and scanning for the details of the specific information, focus on that one, and then the keywords and underline those ones, and then coming back to the stem again and finding or looking for the correct options. Sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, some questions they have multiple parts, and make sure they address each part clearly in their response. So that is another way of getting or doing better in this type of question, which is our note-taking question 3. Now let's have an insight into question 4. And question 4, we have an open response question here. And usually what we do is we provide a literary text. So for question 4A, this is part A, we got 2 parts, 4A and 4B. So the text is literary text, and which is between 200 and 205 words. And the mark allocation is 10. And the questions could be, each one could be, some of them out of, like, there could be 2 information required, so that will be 2 per questions, or could be 1 mark per questions. So most candidates seems to be focusing efficiently on the key information, and they have answered quite well in this question. And in the answer spaces, we provide lines for the answers, and particularly for this question, we don't expect them to write down in full sentences. As long the key ideas are informed, mentioned, presented, they can get full marks. So that's a good opportunity for them to get some score in this question. The mean mark of this question was 8.45 out of 10, and as you can see, this is quite good. And however, some candidate lost marks in question 4A1 because of they couldn't refer to the why the author loves to read and the relevant information for that. And they also struggled on question 4A4 and adding, like some of them have written library jati boishishte rock noy and lost marks, as the question aimed at knowing the suggestion given by the author to his readers regarding selection of books, not about the library. It's about the author and their attitude, like their openness, their mentality, not being biased to any particular race or group. So they really need to, candidates really need to carefully skim and scan from the stem exactly what they need to respond or write down their answer about. As you can see over here, like boi পড়তে ভালোবাসে, boi না পড়ে জ্ঞানার্জন লাভ করা. So boi পড়তে ভালোবাসে, it's not a full sentence, but we can award that one. That's what I was talking about. They don't need to write down in full sentences. Boi পড়তে ভালোবাসে, part of it, and that like in that form, that it creditable if it is the correct answer. Then they also need to look for over here 2 pieces of information are required. So লেখক কিভাবে বই নির্বাচনের ক্ষেত্রে কি পরামর্শ দিয়েছেন, 2টি বিষয় লেখো. So they need to refer to those 2 particular key points. And also candidates can benefit by lifting from the text. So they don't need to write down in full sentences. They can lift a phrase or particular key points to answer those questions. And candidates, they also need to make sure they are providing two pieces of information wherever needed. So they can look at the marks distribution, whether it is written 2 or 1, so that means 2, and also in words it states there like duty vishoy lekho. To perform better in this kind of open response questions, they need to develop specific strategies, and they need to focus on comprehension, analysis, and clear writing. So we are going to flag up some key strategies here. So what they need to do is they need to, again, like any other reading task, they need to carefully read the passage. So they would benefit by skim reading from the main ideas first and annotating as they go through, as they read, and underlining and highlighting key points or the themes or specific parts that may help answering these questions. Then they can understand the question. So they need to break down the question and ensure, like, the question stems there. So they can break down those questions and understand what the question is asking, and then identifying the question parts. Like some of the open response questions have multiple parts, and they need to make sure they can address each part clearly in their response. Another thing is they don't need to go in details, as we have said, it can be in phrases, and they can lift from the text. For question 4a, please bear in mind we are talking about question 4a, not question 4b. So candidates should avoid irrelevant details and stick to the points that directly answer the question. Including unrelated information could detract from the clarity of their response. So they need to be very precise, very concise, and picking up the right key point. And that you do. Okay, so that's all for question 4a. So let's move on to question 4b. And in question 4b, the insights. So this one is a summary question. So in part A, the candidate, based on question part A, like the text they had, two people or two persons will be talking about that view, having argumentative or different opinion. So first speaker will have some kind of opinion and the other speaker might have a different or similar opinions, and they present their views. And what the candidate needs to do in part B, they're asked to summarize the views of the speaker on both of them, both speakers, speaker A and B, Yashaon and Faiza, and on 2 points. And the text provided here is between 245 and 250 words, and they are linked to the text A, which is in question 4a. And as we said, it's a Mamamir and two people talking about it. Here, the allocated marks is 4, and each sub-question is worth of 2 marks each. And there are lines provided. And again, for question 4b, full sentences are not necessary as long as the answer meets the requirement of the mark scale. Okay, so this series, like May 2024, some did not gain full marks as they did not follow the instruction for summarization, and too many responses were lifted. And this is where we need to work hard, like focus more, and we need to remind our candidates that this particular question is a higher demand question, question 4b, and we expect them to summarize. So that means they need to write down their views, and their views, whenever they write it down, they need to use their own words. And the mean mark of this question was 1.80 out of 4. And I have already mentioned it is a higher demand question. And with this question, we can kind of like, differentiate the ability of students in section this section in section A. And again, to reiterate, language manipulation is required to answer this question. To perform better in summary question, which is question 4B, so candidates should focus on mastering both reading comprehension, that means they require to understand, and concise writing. So first thing is the candidate needs to understand the summary. Okay, so as you can see, we expect language manipulation here. I'm going to come like having that a bit details, like lifting, some examples of lifting, and also providing irrelevant information. So irrelevant information, any responses, definitely that is not being awarded or not being scored. They wouldn't get any mark for that. If there is a language manipulation, even as you can see, just a bullet point, a phrase, not even a full sentence, not a paragraph, that is not like that's something we can accept. But as long the language manipulation is evident, as long it relate to the question demand correctly, validly presented and written down. So candidates should understand the summary requirements, what is being asked. Like in all cases, we need to understand this question stem and the key requirement, key demand of that question. So they need to pay attention to the specific demand. Is the question asking for a general summary, or it is focused on certain sections or opinions? They need to look for it. Second mandatory thing, and very important, paraphrase. They shouldn't copy. So they should avoid copying phrases or sentences directly from the passage. They need to use their own words to demonstrate their understanding, because that is the expectation, particularly in question 4B. They can express ideas in simpler version, and I will give some examples and clearer from the clearer form without altering the meaning. It can be as simple as that, like changing the verb. So if they change the verb ending of the sentence, that might work. Even if they change the subject or pronoun of the sentence, even that might work. Even linking the bullet point in the question stem and adding the correct response with connectives, that might work. So they can look for those strategies, like changing, amending a little bit of verb ending. They can change the person, like they can personalize, they can change the pronoun of the sentence. That should be considered as language manipulation. Even linking, the bullet point. So for example, over here it says Adhunik library dharon. So if they link this way, Adhunik library dharon holo, then they can add the remaining from the text, and that would be a manipulation. So this is quite easy to do, but the only important thing we need to consider here is they need to practice a lot. And they shouldn't lift the possible answer word for word, like word for word possible lifting answer. So that wouldn't be awarded. Lift a chunk, like quite a lot of sentences, including the possible answer in there, and along with some irrelevant text, that wouldn't be credited. So that wouldn't be credited. Then lifting the possible answer by eliminating words. So for example, they eliminate part of the, like from a sentence, a particular word is eliminated or deleted or not written, or a phrase not being used, like beginning of the sentence and the end of the sentence, by eliminating middle part of the sentence or some words of the sentence. That wouldn't work. Like elimination of words wouldn't count. So we are not going to count that as a language manipulation. So we have explained how to be successful in terms of question like language manipulation in question B. So this is something our candidates needs to practice a lot. They can be very concise and direct, so they don't need to include any padding, any unnecessary details. They can focus only on the main points, and minor supporting details, they can eliminate that one. Also, they need to make sure that making up the overall summary or the demand of the question by manipulating the language. They can use clear and simple language. They can use short sentences. They don't need to they can avoid long, complicated sentences that may confuse the reader. So I hope through this way candidates will be excel in question 4B in coming series. Now we will be having our insights into question 5. So question 5, it's a shorter writing task and it's an open response. And it is a descriptive and narrative response, and students are required to write 80 words in Bangla. And candidates must use the prompt or words or stimuli or the 4 boxes given, so all those stimuli, and 2 of the stimuli in the stimuli or the prompts would have in different time frames. For example, not in present, but one would be in past, one would be in future. So over here for this particular question in 2024 May, we had Bhobishyote Tomar Swapner Bari, and for like time frame in past tense we had Samproti Je Bariti Tumi Dekhecho. Okay, so the most successful approach shown by the candidate was to refer to all 4 stimuli or all 4 prompts here, and some of them have they lost marks because they missed out on the points on different time frames or missing out one of the stimuli in their response. So the mean mark for this question was 10.25 out of 14. And as I've just said a few minutes, a couple of seconds earlier, so some candidates lost communication and content marks as they failed to refer to all 4 stimuli. Or they used the word irrelevantly because they didn't understand. And this year, this series, what happened, that happened to mostly to the stimuli, which is recent visit, like Samproti Tumi Je Bariti Dekhecho. So they have visited recently a house, they have visited recently. So many candidates didn't understand what the word Samproti, and they couldn't link that stimulus to write in past tense. And also they need to be concise, structured, and insightful to excel in this type of open response writing task based on all 4 stimuli. So on top of adhering, the band descriptors we have on our mark scheme, here are some effective strategies how they can do better in 80 words writing. So candidates should understand the stimuli. That is the foremost important thing. They need to quickly analyze each stimulus, identifying the key message and idea from each stimulus. They also need to establish the connections, finding the relationship and finding the order, like how to structure that response coherently. They need to, since it is a short task, like 80 words writing, so they need to combine, they need to understand in such a short task very quickly to decide how to combine the information from the 4 stimuli and identify 1 or 2 major points to include They also need to create a kind of similarities and contrast between the stimuli that helps them to organize and jumping from one stimulus or one idea to another. Since the word limit is tight, so they need to focus on very important or most important or relevant details from the stimuli, and they need to avoid unnecessary details. So they shouldn't go too deep into any single stimulus. So what we have seen is they have been writing, for example, this year, they are writing quite a lot about facilities, like disadvantage of the current house, quite a lot of writing on that one. And then suddenly, when the time to write down about the house they recently visited and their future house or dream house, that went really short. In some cases, just one sentence. So that is not a balanced presentation on all four stimuli. So they need to have a balance, so that not to explain any of the stimuli in details, having all four having most importance, a similar level of importance and extension. They also need to use connecting phrases, so how they can link ideas smoothly. So they can use those relationship between the stimuli to make their response flow logically, and to help them to cover more ground in fewer words. And they need to focus on questions. So sometimes, even this year, although it is talking about a house, but in some cases, it's more about outside of the house or more about the local area or other things, other facilities. So the question is about the house. So stick to that context rather than bringing in other off topic or adding irrelevant information. It's good to have a conclusion. It's good to have a introduction with one or two sentences. Uh, that could be better depending on how the candidate want to wrap up, end with a sentence that wraps up their response, showing how all those stimuli related to each other or to the question. We would recommend, I know it is difficult, but we would recommend to stay within the word limit. Please help them to practice writing to the word limit, like 80 words for this question. And they have enough space to make meaningful points without being too brief or very verbose or extensive writing. They can, that was mentioned in examination, like examiner's report. So they've always good to review, after checking their words after writing, revise to remove any redundant or vague phrases. So each word should add value to these 80 words writing, and use of proper language. That applies to question 6 as well. So, the grammar and syntax, they need to ensure that their writing is grammatically correct and reads smoothly. This will help them to convey clarity despite of the short length. And, colloquialism or dialect way of presentation should be avoided. So the written form, we encourage them to, since this is a writing section, so we encourage them to go with the formal writing structure. Time frame is very important in this question as well as in question 6. So they must include all 3 time frames, and also opinions and justifications. So they need to get good mark, to be on the top band. They need to personalize their response by adding opinions and justifications. So as you can see, this particular candidate, the candidate has included advantages and disadvantages of the house, opinion with justification, description rightly done, past tense is there, all the stimuli is there. Dream house, recently visited house, future tense is there. Behind me, this is another answer, which is very brief, as you can see, very brief, missing information and missing different time frames. So it's a good comparison here. So as you can see, that's answered to one person, like one candidate had answered that much and missed out quite a lot of information from the stimulus, like stimuli and the tenses. And this particular candidate had managed to present everything. And they can practice like other questions. They can practice time responses, writing concisely, and organizing thoughts quickly and responding effectively under pressure. So that would help. So after question 5, we are going to move into insights into question 6. And that is also another writing task candidates needs to do in IGCSE Bangla paper. And this is a longer writing task. And this one is again another open response, and candidate choose one option. They choose one option, one question from 3 options: 6A, 6B, and 6C. Usually 6A has an image that illustrates the topic of the question, but this year we didn't have it. Like this series, we don't have it. Question 6B, candidates have to read a short stimulus text of 20 to 30 words in Bangla. And the purpose of this of the piece of writing is to explain or to interest or to persuade. And the candidates, and the question 6C, sorry, I didn't mention about question 6C, that is mostly writing to a blog on website. So here the expectation is through their writing they need to be candidates. They need to be able to explain, draw some interest, and also persuade. And they should maintain the format of the requirement depending on which one they are selecting. Is it blog writing or article or report writing or email or sending messages or writing a letter? So those kind of format they need to follow. And each subsection, like sub questions, they have 3 bullet points scaffolded down to support candidates in particular. And again, like in question 5, candidates should use past, present, and future time frames in their response. So this year, candidates approached this question differently, but most successful responses presented each point validly and appropriately with balance and argument. So question 6A, we have one example of question 6A, and as you can see, all 3 stimuli is covered, as well as we can see a clear paragraphing, which is a good practice. So 6A here, candidates were required to write an article about Porishkar Porichhannota, the cleanliness in and around their locality, for a Bengali newspaper or Bangla newspaper. And most students who attended this question wrote a quite realistic answer from their personal experience of taking part in the cleanliness drive. However, a few students lost marks because they didn't cover all of the required points. Additionally, some of the students didn't maintain the sequence of the questions. It's good to follow the sequence rather than like missing out the organization, going at random, first bullet point first, and then rather than writing about the second one, third one comes up, a part of the first one again brings back. So it needs to be a bit organized. So one important aspect is for question 6 is to reference to all 3 stimuli and paragraphing. Then we had question 6B. In this question, candidates needed to write an email about their future plans and the importance of future plans for youth. Most students who attended this performed will providing valid and sufficient details of their plans and covering all the points as required. They covered all the points like as desired in the question. However, a few candidates didn't extend and elaborate their responses, referencing certain points mentioned in the question, resulting in lower marks. Even like before for question 5, the one example behind my video here. So that is a full response. And this kind of like least successful responses tended only to repeat what is written in the question paper and already mentioned in the stimuli. There's no like authentic work found in this kind of response. On the other hand, we can see in 6b, there are references to like all 3 stimuli and 3 tenses, including justification and opinions there. So next question was we had, so we can see on this one is in question 6b, the most effective responses, one of the good responses we can see here. So the effective responses addressing both language and structure consistently and confidently and concisely, not going over the the word requirements, and they have presented their core ideas, all those 3 key ideas in several paragraphs, and it shows the the confidence in their writing. So it is their responses were linked confidently to the given context. Then we had also, this is somewhere in the, not in the middle, like lower. So it is important to remember that the content and knowledge of the language are only 2 possible elements in question 6. An extended open-ended response requires reaching an approximate word limit. Even this one is quite short. So that's something candidates needs to make sure they keep up with the demand of the number of words so that they can explain. So this one is question C, and another example. So in this question, candidates are expected to write a blog on Shastoi Jibon, Health Life, and the answers were varied. Some candidates presented their work with numerous realistic examples and detailed descriptions of their personal experiences, while a few candidates deviated from the original theme and omitted to give details of their lifestyle and hence lost some marks. So few simply wrote on the importance of health as if quoting from the memory or like memorized version. Many candidates adopted the useful approach of making 3 clear points, as you can see here. Even like we can see title for each particular contents or points, responses. And so now we can talk about how candidates can perform better in this kind of task where they are expected to write on 140 words. So first thing again, so they need to understand the prompt. So to clarify, so they need to understand and ensure the understanding of what is being asked. Is this is a report? This is an email or a blog? So they need to look for the format they are responding to, and they need to stay on that format. Then they need to underline the key points, as you can see, as you know, and identify the important elements that need to be addressed in the response. It's good to plan briefly. They can use a space somewhere in the exam paper to plan outline. Spend a minute creating a quick outline, how they're going to draw, how they're going to relate, how they're going to organize. So divide the response into a clear beginning, middle, and end. On top of, they can have a couple of lines as their introduction and a couple of lines or sentences as their conclusion. So they need to focus on the structure, have clear main points and support them with 2 to 3 key ideas. The middle of the main part should have the responses to each bullet point in 3 separate paragraphs. Again, like other writing exercises or tasks, they need to be concise. They need to avoid unnecessary details. They need to stick to the main ideas. They need to use precise language to stay within the word limit. They need to stop, or they need to limit repetition. So sometimes we see they are in all 3 paragraphs, they are repeating similar kind of context and similar kind of justification or opinions. আমি পছন্দ করি, আমার ভালো লাগে, কারণ ভালো লাগে. So very weak justification as well as very similar presentations. They can, to make their writing flow smoothly, they can use simple transition words like firstly, additionally, in conclusion. We know how to do that. প্রথমত or এছাড়াও আরো বলা যেতে পারে এই ধরনের. And they can also, as we are recommending, they can have a simple conclusion. They need to review, so they need to reread their responses to ensure it makes sense and answers all prompts clearly. Grammar and spelling, definitely, that is far most important. So they need to make sure they have included all 3. Excuse me. They have included all 3 time frames. Quickly, they need to check for any errors before submitting. By staying focused, organized, concise, candidates can effectively communicate their ideas within a 140 word limit. Excuse me. And please refer to the banded marking principle on the mark scheme for this question. So detail how to score on the top. Look for the banded marking principle outlined in the mark scheme. So our next question item is 7, and we know that is insights into question 7 is it's a translation task. So students are required to translate a written text in English into Bangla. They should transfer the meaning accurately into Bangla, and that the text is between 85 and 90 words long. So this series candidates approached this translation with a varied vocabulary, but most successful responses presented each communication with appropriate wording and sentence structure. And again, they have performed really well in good, excellent performance this time. And the mean mark for this question was 15.41, which is really, really good out of 20 marks. It seemed most candidates were confident, although different variants of the acceptable answers were provided, since they made a complete sense and marks were awarded. Students faced some challenges while translating words and phrases. We have, frequently we have seen translating sea beach or attracts visitors, international holiday destination, plan, local economy. So those are the words seems to be a bit difficult for them to translate. And we have seen many candidates, they have shown the tendency to use transliterated words, which is transliterated words are not credible as long we have Bengali words for them, or common Bengali words, or Bangla words, I would say. Performing better in English to Bangla translation task requires a blend of language skills, practice, and attention to details. So here are some tips for candidates to excel in translating a passage from English to Bangla. So first thing is they need to read it very carefully, very thoroughly. So before starting the translation, read the entire English passage to grasp the overall meaning and context. So that would be the first thing I would say. They also need to maintain the meaning and context. So focus on meaning. Don't just translate word for word. Instead, focus on conveying the same meaning in Bangla, maintaining the tone and the context of the original text. Contextual translation. Some English phrases or idioms may not have a direct Bangla equivalent. In such cases, find a culturally appropriate Bangla expression that conveys the same meaning. We recommend candidates to use appropriate vocabulary. So select accurate word, choose the Bangla words that the best match the meaning of the English terms. Always avoid transliterated words where Bangla words are common. They are also expected to be familiar with synonyms. Sometimes there are multiple Bangla words for a single English term. Select the one that best fits the context of the sentence. It's good to handle the technical terms wisely. If the passage contains technical terms, use standard translation or transliterations accepted in Bangla. So for example, phone, we can write on phone. Or internet, we can go with internet. We are not going for like Antharjal or other words which is not very much common. Maintain grammatical accuracy. So use correct sentence structure. Make sure that the sentence structure in Bangla is grammatically correct. Carefully observe or check the time and the mood. So maintain the tense and mood. Ensure the verb tenses, moods, imperatives, aspects of continuous or perfect are accurately translated in Bangla. In Bangla, we also need to especially focus on subject-verb agreement, keeping an eye on subject-verb agreement in Bangla, like first person, E sound, ami kori, amra kori, second person, O sound, tumi koro, tobra koro, third person, A sound, she kore, tara kore. So those kind of agreements they need to follow up. It is suggested, it is good to avoid literal translation, so focus on the fluidity. The literal translation might sound awkward, or word for word translation might sound awkward or unclear in Bangla. So we expect them to stay natural, sound natural, while maintaining the original message. And mostly and very importantly, once they have done their translation, they need to proofread. We expect them not only for translation, we would recommend proofread any responses you have like completed, you have given in your paper. So after translating or other tasks, reread your Bangla version or reread your writing section, reread your reading section to ensure there are no errors, there's no missing, or nothing has omitted. And similarly to other one, practice regularly, practice translation and small passages from English to Bangla to improve their candidates' speed and accuracy, and practice exercises from past papers and get feedback if possible. Ask your teachers, like candidates, they can ask their teachers or peers to review their translation and get feedback to improve their skills. And translation is in relation to this task and some other writing task, even reading task. Candidates are expected to build their Bangla vocabulary, so they need to expand their vocabulary. They need to work on expanding, especially for commonly used words, technical terms, idiomatic expressions, reading Bangla newspapers, literature, essays. So improve the understanding of sentence structure and vocabulary. So if they apply these strategies, so they can improve their performance in translation skills and ensuring the translation are accurate, coherent, and natural. So now I'm going to, so that's all about, the insights of May 2024 exam. Now I would like you to, I would like to share the supports available from, from Pearson and Edexcel. So we have supports available from Pearson. So the specification on Pearson Edexcel website, as you can see, it says looks like this. So if you link on, like if you browse on this link, you'll be able to find our international GCSE Bangla, which is rolled out in 2017 and first exam in 2019. So we can have the specification there, and you can look for the vocabulary or the themes, the contents, and assessment objectives. So all those different materials can be found here. We also have exam materials, including past questions, papers, mark schemes on the same link. So there's, you can see here, so modified paper, and each area, like each year, you could have the exam papers and mark schemes. Also, to support you with the your school or your center, to support with learning materials, training modules, they are also available there. So you can browse, you can download, you can look for the schemes of work, you can look for the teaching materials and training modules which are available now. So thank you for joining this webinar. I hope it was helpful. You're always welcome to come back to us with your queries. So that's all for today. So I wish all the best to you and your October 20 candidates. So October 2024 exam and all upcoming series. Take care. Bye.